Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and after what's felt like a couple of weeks now of nothing really happening, everything has come along all at once. Loads going on today, especially two big announcements coming out of Boston and Toronto respectively. Toronto Envoy is officially a thing, might be the biggest upgraded team on paper this offseason, but Boston also taking things very seriously as well with their acquisition of SlasheR. Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. We need to begin though with all this drama surrounding Activision Blizzard's esports products. Hex was talking the other day about doing an event in London, and for OpTic to do an event in London would probably have to mandate a situation where there was no more franchising. In a franchising situation, if OpTic want to host an event, it's got to be in Texas. That's how the geolocation works. We have been eking towards, though, over the last couple of months, a future where the franchise league that we currently know is no longer in place for the Call of Duty League. What would come after that, we just don't know, but something serious is going to change over the next year or so, and it might happen sooner than that, as we'll see in a second. Firstly, Microsoft, we know they're taking over Activision Blizzard. They've extended the deadline on this just so they can get things absolutely sorted, but it does seem like it's going to happen at this point. But this is where we get the news around the Overwatch League. Now, the Overwatch League came around a couple of years before the CDL did, but effectively Activision is saying, this isn't working, we're going to shut this down, take $6 million and get out of here, because if the teams don't agree to the new format of the league, and it's been a disaster, the OWL, for some time, and especially now, they're going to give everyone $6 million. So, you know, fantastic scam that Activision have run here, let's be honest. And this is the frustrating thing to see so many people let go. Activision do this all the time, but they let 50 people go yesterday, I believe, from their esports division. And one former employee said, I can only speculate that Activision is closing its esports division. They may be able to keep a skeleton crew on to close out the OWL and the World Series of Warzone. No mention of the CDL here, but in my eyes, they are completely unequipped to support esports after that. So many people let go from the production team to the content team. We'll see that in a second. And it's just frustrating to see what were obviously terrible decisions being made by higher-ups, at least from the perspective of the longevity of the league. I think it was clear to many of us when the CDL came around in 2019, there was many, including myself, that said, look, give it 5 years and then we'll see what happens then. Because I think a lot of us couldn't see it lasting 5 years. And, well, we're going into the 5th season of the CDL, which probably is still going to happen. I don't think there's too much question around that because the teams are still doing all the announcements, right? And the contracts are still signed, and they did have a meeting at the World Championship with all the owners, and the OW is in a worse spot. So I think the CDL will continue on as it is for a little bit longer, but I would expect maybe one more season of the CDL as we currently know it, then Microsoft come in, they might change their minds. It's possible this quote is a tad misguided as well, just because Activision could quite easily say, hey, ESL, I believe they now own, like ESL Face It, I think they own Esports Engine now, so they could say, look, guys, just run it for us type thing and just outsource the production, which might be what they decide to do, to be honest. And as Ben J. Nassim says, like, it's not impossible for COD to go for the third party model and let the old team run it again, which might well happen in the future. We'll see what Microsoft decide to do. And as Puckett says, it's straight up more affordable really for the team to go down this route and, you know, get rid of the current crew, bring on an outsourced team and run it from there. So we'll see what this means going forwards, but it does mean that many people that have been involved with the Overwatch League, the Call of Duty side, on the content team or whatever, like Nicholas here, senior producer at the Call of Duty League, his entire content team was laid off yesterday after another record season. So, and even as he says, I thought this was particularly interesting, always trying to be a positive force on the inside against insurmountable odds. Forever thankful to my team, not to the company, not to the organization, but to my team. So really sad to see people affected like this by just bad decisions that have been made over years. And it's just, you know, you can see it coming, you know what I mean? And then it happens, you know, like, damn. Now, what does this mean for the CDL? We don't really know, but what we will see is that all the teams are still doing announcements as if it's all going ahead perfectly fine for next season. My expectation would be that the CDL might continue as it stands for like one more season, and then Microsoft come in and they'll choose what they want to do. Does franchising still exist? Do they go back to a different format? Do they run it in like an open circuit style situation? The return of the CWL feels unlikely, but as far as I'm concerned, the audience is there, the passion is there, the player base is there for competitive Call of Duty. Some sort of COD esports will exist in some form or another, whether it's officially produced produced by Activision Blizzard or Microsoft or whatever, who knows. I think there'll always be something really, but I imagine there's going to be many big changes coming here over the next year, couple of years, and I'm sure we're going to have more announcements around this type of stuff over the off-season as to what the immediate term plans are for the CDL, given the fact that the OWL is apparently going to die very quickly, is the rumours that we are hearing today, and the CDL might not be too far behind. Let's do Rostermania then. So firstly, Jake Hell tweets this, which was a little bit interesting because this tweet came out a few days ago now, and we talked about it earlier today, confirming that aBeZy and Cobra are gone from the Awobabobs officially. They're UFAs, whereas aBeZy and Lins have been retained, which is, you know, Jacob Bell is kind of implying here that those guys are going to get bought out by somewhere. Is that going to be Thieves? I know a couple of guys mentioned that Lins' English is actually pretty good, so I'm not too knowledgeable on that to say either way. aBeZy's, I believe, is. So there's options there. Thieves might be looking at it, other teams might be looking at it, and well, everyone else seems to be going ahead business as usual, despite all the drama behind the scenes at Activision Blizzard that I think a lot of us saw coming. Now, Boston confirmed Snoopy the other day. This was actually, I think, the first official announcement really of the Rostermania period, was Snoopy, after impressing at the World Championship, returning to Boston, this time on their starting team. Then Jake Hell comes out and says expected SlasheR and Priestahh both signing for Boston. We heard that these guys were a team of two the other day and expected the announcement soon. And legitimately, less than 60 seconds after Jake Hell tweeted this, Boston tweeted this. So I guess they saw it and were like, right, send it live, let's give it a go. So quickly, in fact, that as of recording, SlasheR hasn't even commented on this yet. So maybe they caught him a little bit off guard by the announcement. But as Boston say, the anchor has dropped, welcome to Boston at SlasheR. This to me is a great pickup by Boston, and I think they're really trying to take a step forwards. They're not happy with their first couple of seasons that were solid, but they want to go one step further. And if there's any duo in the league to build around that could potentially take them to the next level and compete with the big boys that are currently forming their rosters elsewhere, I think going for SlasheR and Priestahh is the way to go. I really like this duo. Priestahh hasn't been confirmed as of recording. It might well happen tonight. I think we're pretty confident it's going to happen at this point anyway. And we've been talking about it for quite some time here. And also this is an interesting point from Puckett, right? That mentoring Snoopy is potentially a big deal here. SlasheR hasn't had a great history playing with rookie players. He doesn't do it particularly often. But the idea of SlasheR and Priestahh, world champions, veterans of the scene, helping Snoopy, a really raw and promising talent, improve, that sounds like a recipe for success as far as I'm concerned. SlasheR brings a lot of slaying power back on his preferred role, because let's be honest, the SlasheR Cellium thing was always a bit strange. Cellium plays like a main, SlasheR plays like a main. It was never going to work so well, I think, with both of them. They still got some decent results. FaZe obviously want to go a different direction. And Priestahh, I'm guessing, didn't want to run an SMG, wants to go back to the flex. I think that makes the most sense. Priestahh is one of the most versatile players ever in COD history. Having him on that flexible role when he can run a sub, if it's a 3-sub meta or an AR, or like, you know, certain maps might be 3 subs, certain maps might be 2, even 3 ARs. Priestahh can do it all. And if Priestahh can drop a 1.02 like he did this year, and SlasheR can drop a 1.1, 1.15, I think they'll be in a really good spot. The question to me is, who are they going to bring on as their other SMG? SlasheR, Priestahh, Snoopy +1. You want an SMG with a lot of upside, right? And there are a few out there. You've got Hook, you've got Standy, you've got Afro, potentially Nero, but I don't think he's going back to Boston after the way that the drama ended with those two last season. Maybe you go for Doug Martin. Okay, it's not going to happen. He's going to be on the academy team, but still, as Doug says, welcome to Boston. Austin actually, of course, teamed up and won things back in the day as this legendary team of SlasheR, Doug, and then Aches and aBeZy noted here in the middle. So maybe there's something in that, but more than likely that's not going to be the case. And also kind of crazy, SlasheR, this will be his 11th season as a professional player. Clay holds the record at 14, could well be 15 if he returns this year. Crim is kind of crazy because Crim only did 10 years, and it's actually less than Aches and JCap and now SlasheR, and obviously a few less than Scum, but Crim obviously won so many events in that decade span. Clay's about to hit 15. SlasheR, though, joins the likes of Cap and Aches on 11, which is very impressive, and is still playing at a very high level, I thought, especially at the end of last season. He also becomes the first ever player to play for 5 different franchises. He's done a different franchise every year. OGLA, Thieves, Los Angeles Guerrillas, FaZe, and now the Boston Breach. Quick word also for what this means for Beans, because Beans was, we thought, going to be on this team, just because they released Awakening. They released everybody else apart from Snoopy. Beans was still there. He's still got Boston in his bio, but I believe he might have removed it from his, I don't know if it was in his name before, it might have been, I'm not exactly sure to be honest. It's still in his bio and his header and stuff, so maybe he's still there in some form, but clearly he's not going to be on the starting team with SlasheR and Priestahh coming in. They've got him, I think, on a 2+1, which means that maybe he steps down to their academy, maybe he tries to go elsewhere. I think that London could, they should look at a guy like Beans if he actually wants to starting spot. I think that'd be a decent decision, but I like the way that Boston have gone here just because, SlasheR, Priestahh, it's a duo that have had success before. They want to really compete at the sharp end of the field, and I think you can understand the decisions they have made. The issue that you find, though, if you're a team like Boston, is that arguably all the other teams around you have made upgrades, and Boston are taking it serious. They're in year 3, they're trying to pay big money, get big players, and make a push. And who are they signing as their 4th? We don't really know right now. As I've said, the likes of Afro, maybe other who was linked to Thieves earlier today, who can Standy and a couple of others come to mind, Capsule maybe, but maybe you want someone with a bit more experience, even a guy like Bance, along, like if Snoopy can really play as well as like they think he possibly can, and he has that potential upside, maybe someone with a bit more experience like Bance could be an option there. So there's a few names that are going around. The issue is that ideally, I think Boston would like Envoy, right? That would probably be the ideal targets to have if you are Boston, but unfortunately for them and unfortunately for the rest of the league, Envoy has made his decision. He is going to the Toronto Ultra, and Rotation and Tier leaked the announcement before they even announced it, and then very shortly afterwards, we got this from Toronto, and it's honestly, like, it's a nice video, right? You don't have to do a video. Boston decided not to even bother. They just put out the tweet and the graphic, fair enough. I don't necessarily think you need to waste so much time waiting for the announcements. I mean, look at the view here. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. So here's Envoy. He's rocking back and forth for some reason, but he's looking at the sea and tower and the city and the beautiful sunset and all this. So there he is, officially in Toronto. Prince to a king, welcome to the north, they say, and that's the official confirmation. So Envoy, after leaving Thieves, that kind of weird, like, goodbye video they did, who was like, yeah, I want to go somewhere where I can win championships, and you can't blame him for making this call. Toronto, on paper, probably make, like, I like Kixie. I think he's a solid player, made a lot of right plays, was particularly good on LAN, but was the weak link, I would say, for their team. He was in his first season as a player. I think he can improve and get better over time, but he's going to be more of like a serviceable player than a star player, and it's quite possible that Envoy can manage to find a way to do both. He also tweets this out that I believe Financial Nerd on Reddit initially put together. I believe that Envoy does give credit to in the replies to the original artist, but yeah, what a fantastic shot, and it's going to be great to see Envoy in purple playing for these guys, because man, what a team it's going to be. And just to make it very clear that they are going to indeed run it back with the same roster, minus 60 plus Envoy, we get this from Scrappy, and here we go. CleanX says, welcome, time to get to work soon. CleanX is still on Toronto. He's been there for his entire career, it feels like, at least since the franchising days, and he's still there with his duo Insight, who also retweets this tweet, which pretty much confirms that this indeed will be your roster of 4, which is a very scary team. So for all of Boston are trying, and I think they're doing a good job with the decisions they're making, Toronto have made a big upgrade, and it's crazy that some will consider this team to be the 4th best team on paper. They might be right in that assessment, but this team does not feel like the 4th best team on paper. And that is where we're going to leave it for today. I just refreshed the timeline quickly just to see if I'd missed anything, and as Toronto say, let's see if Hannon's got the cannon. Envoy will be throwing the first pitch of tonight's Blue Jays game, so that's pretty crazy stuff, kind of like last minute announcements here, but really cool to see. And well, as Jacob L says, hopefully we get some sort of meme of this. I want to see the video footage, and if it exists, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.